how to find the next step, what to do in these circumstances.
Well, first of all, let me make the situation harder. Okay, there's a difference between an obstacle and a test. Not every obstacle is a test. We have a rule: you have the strength to overcome every test, to succeed at every test. The rule that you have the strength to succeed at every test does not imply you have the strength to overcome every obstacle. Because the truth is, you use that rule backwards, what in logic is called the contrapositive. You have to assess independently, do you have the strength to overcome the obstacle? And if you don't, then it's not a test. So don't confuse obstacles with tests. Or, if you like, you can rephrase it this way. Sometimes the test in the obstacle is live with the fact that you can't overcome the obstacle. But many people think that if there's an obstacle in my way, it must be a test. And if it's a test, I must have the ability to overcome it. Or I don't overcome it, I'm a failure. That logic isn't sound. And if you're a parent, you know this in gold, because there are times that arise, I would say probably for every parent, where a child has a problem and you have the solution to the problem and your child can't take it from you. He doesn't want to hear from you. There are adolescent conflicts with parents and so forth and so on. And if you told his teacher to tell him, or told his uncle to tell him, or some friend to tell him, he would accept it. But from you, he can't accept it. And I know people who say, but I'm his father, and I love him, and I want the best for him. You do, that's right, 100%. Just, you can't do it, because he won't accept it. So then you either have to find another means, or live with the fact that you can't do it. So the first thing is to independently assess, is this really meant as a test? Or is this something that I have to learn to live without because it's too hard for me altogether to accomplish? And this helps you situate yourself in a reasonable context. Now, the Gaon of Vilna learned Torah, let's say, on an average day for 16 hours. I don't do that. Am I a failure because I don't learn the way the Gaon of Vilna learned? No, I don't have that capacity. If I can learn for 4 hours with no distraction, that's a good day. And he learned for 16 hours. I'm not a failure because I'm not doing what he's doing. My job is to live with what I can do. So the first question that has to be answered is, how do I know what I'm able to do? For that, I have two suggestions. People who know you well, and who know what the Torah wants, and who can give you an assessment as to what you're capable of and also how to set your priorities, are an invaluable way to get better understanding of what your realistic alternatives are. It's not perfect. Human knowledge is never perfect, but it's much better than doing it on your own, because people see themselves through a haze of prejudice and distortions. And the distortions aren't simple. Sometimes you're too lenient with yourself, or sometimes you're too strict on yourself. So one thing is to get advice, even advice of peers, though it's superior to get the advice of older people who know things well. The other thing is this: when you're considering whether to take a particular step, take it as an experiment. Don't decide I'm going to do this, because then if it becomes very difficult or you fail, then you failed. And your self-knowledge is imperfect, and you can't trust yourself and your self-evaluation, and then you lose enthusiasm for the entire project. Make it an experiment. I'm going to try this for a month or 2 months. At the end of the time, I'm going to make a bottom line assessment: was it a successful move or not? In that way, if it doesn't, and by the way, bottom line is very important. It's not whether I succeed in doing this, because there are costs to doing this. It means taking a look at the effect of this step on the whole quality of my life. Was it an improvement or was it a deterioration? And then if you decide it was a deterioration, you say to yourself, okay, I'm not ready for this now. Maybe I'll try it again in 2 years. And you haven't lost anything. You made an experiment and you took the result of the experiment and made a reasonable decision. So that's one thing to do in terms of figuring out what step to take. These are matters of self-knowledge, of self-understanding. And I think you should ask other people this question also. These are two ways that I know of to get some self-knowledge. There may be other ways that I don't know. It's a very good question. Then there's another aspect to it. Okay, let's say it's a challenge. Let's say I have the means to overcome it, and I can overcome it in a variety of different ways. How should I do that? What would be the superior way to do that? Now, I'll just tell you a little brief parable, and then I'll go on to the next question. There's a perspective, but it's hard to get it. Again, you could take consultation with someone. I've decided to improve my hospitality. And I've decided Friday night, I'm going to look around the synagogue, the shul, and see, are there any strangers there? And if there are, I'm going to go and offer them hospitality. And there it is, Friday night. I look around, and there he is, over there in the corner. Never saw him before. Doesn't look like a denizen of our area of the world. When Ma'ariv is over, I'm going to over and offer him a place to sleep, a place to eat. And the last Kaddish is echoing in the hall. And I get out of my seat and start walking over. But Ruvain is 2 steps ahead of me. Ruvain's going over to the corner where the stranger is? No, it couldn't be. And Ruvain says to the stranger, "Hi, do you have a place to sleep, to eat?" The stranger says, "No, really, I don't. So come to me." "Oh, thank you so much." They walk off. How do I feel? He stole my mitzvah. I mean, terrible. Now, let's look at it from a Kodesh Baruch Hu's point of view. The stranger got hospitality, and Reuven got a mitzvah, and you, because you wanted to do the mitzvah, get credit for the mitzvah also. From a Kodesh Baruch Hu's point of view, it's win-win-win. So why am I upset? Because I'm not looking at it from his point of view. Well, this is a stretch. You have to try to look at the situation from a Kodesh Baruch Hu's point of view, and then see what the best outcome would be. And often we are very prejudiced, and we don't have the capacity to be objective about that. And going to someone else who you can trust, who has good judgment and has Torah knowledge and understanding and sensitivity, can help to give you perspective. And if you have a good marriage, this is something you do in your marriage. I heard about someone's, my extended family, husband and wife were driving on the road, and the husband cut somebody off, and that guy was really angry. And ran him down, forced him over the side of the road. He got out of his car, he banged on the window of the car. He said it in Hebrew, but he said, "Come out and fight. Are you a man or a mouse?" And his wife leaned out the window, "Mouse! Mouse! Mouse!" and saved him from a fight. She was right. She was definitely right. I don't think his Y chromosome would have allowed him to say that he was a mouse. So you need to get advice on these things. There's no royal road. There's no simple formula. It's part of charting your life and making decisions based on the best estimates you can have. When we had prophecy, the answer was to go to a prophet. And because Baruch Hu took away prophecy, it means he doesn't want us to operate with prophecy. So we have to do the best we can. Yeah, what else is on people's minds?
There's one question I thought of. It's kind of been on my mind. This is my first take. Forgive me if it's out of if not with the classes, but why is the conquest in Sefer Yehoshua so violent? And what does that say about, or what does that relate to values at all?
Well, let me start with a background, a piece of information. Let's go to deep background. We have a written text, and we have an oral tradition. Which came first?
The written text.
That's the impression that everybody has, but it's not true. The oral came first, and the text says so. Because at the end of Moses' life, that's when he composes what we call the 5 books of Moses. The 40 years that they were in the wilderness, they didn't have the book. Moses was teaching them what he learned at Sinai for 40 years before the book was written down. So the book came into existence in a context rich with information already communicated. And therefore reading the written text without the oral accompaniment is really not competent. Some people ask, why didn't the written text say that there's an oral accompaniment? Well, if you've lived it for 40 years, you know that by your own experience. And I'll give you another example. We know that in the United States of America, any law passed by anybody whatsoever can be overridden by the Supreme Court, declaring that it's unconstitutional. I'm ready to wager at any odds there isn't a single law passed by any legislation in the entire United States which has written into the law, by the way, if the Supreme Court overturns it, it's not law. Why not? It's such an important principle because everybody knows it. You're living with it all the time, right? So you have to write everything down. Okay. So now, let's take a look at the idea of conquest on the point of view of the oral tradition in addition to. And this is based on the written law also. I'll explain that in a moment. Every war that Jews fight starts with an offer of peace. Always. Maimonides in the Laws of Wars, chapter 6, says you don't make war with any person in the world without first offering him peace and peace terms. If they refuse it, then there's a war. So it's not a matter of simple conquest by extermination. There's simply not even Amalek, not even the 7 nations of the land of Israel. Always it was preceded by a peace offer. And one place, Maimonides codifies it there, and one place you see it is when they conquered Sichon. The text in Devarim says, Kosh Baruch Hu told Moshe, tell the Jewish people, conquer Sichon. Conquer, take his land. The story in detail, which takes place in the book of Bamidbar, Numbers, says that Moses sent an offer of peace. He sent an offer of peace to the king of Sichon. After Hashem said to him, make war, he sent an offer of peace. Because he understood, he knew himself, that that's how you make war. The first step in making war is to offer peace. So it's violent because they refuse to accept the conditions that we set for living peacefully together with them. Now, after that, then the laws of how you conduct war is a separate issue. But you have to know that it always starts with an offer of peace in every case. What else? Yeah.
Mine are a little lighthearted today.
Okay.
Back 30 years ago, there was a movie that had a famous line, and it says, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convincing the world that he didn't exist.
I didn't know that line. I haven't heard that
curious,
line.
like, to take it into Judaism, what would you say is the sneakiest thing that Yetzer Hara has convinced mankind of?
Oh, these comparative judgments are beyond me. I'm asked these types of questions. Though, the best thing. So I go on a trip and say, what was the best thing that happened on the trip? I don't know. A lot of good things that happen. Sometimes the things there that I regret. But it's a sneaky thing. Now, of course, that came from a Christian point of view, and I don't think anything like that could be applied in the Jewish point of view. First of all, there's nothing what they think of as Satan doesn't exist. So it's like someone said to an atheist, "The God you don't believe in, I don't believe in either." That's not the guy we're talking about. From our point of view, there is the temptation, part of the given motivation of people. Temptation is to do the wrong thing. No one can deny that exists. That's everyday experience. And then the Satan has various different guises and various different strategies. You may have heard of the incident where Jacob wrestled with the angel all night. That angel was representative of Esau and his philosophy and his place in the world. And the Midrash says that part of the time his appearance was that of an armed robber, and part of the time his appearance was that of a Torah scholar. So in at least 2 different guises, the Satan comes with a temptation. Sometimes the temptation is brutal. Listen, I know you eat kosher, but McDonald's is having a 2-for-1 sale this week. Bacon cheeseburgers 2 for 1. kosher next week, after all. Yeah, when are you going to get a 2-for-1 sale on bacon cheeseburgers? That's just brutal. That's wearing the sign of the armed robber. And then sometimes the Sultan comes and says, look, you want to know what to do? I'll show you. Right here in the Code of Jewish Law, in Shulchan Aruch, it says, do A. There it is, written right there. What he doesn't tell you is that on the next page, it says, do A the third Thursday of the fourth month of each year, once a year. And today's January, so it's not going to apply today. So he fools you about what's written in the law. He doesn't ask you to rebel. He lies to you about what the law says. And this is a built-in motivation. Rabbi has a whole essay on this subject. He asked the following question. Suppose someone goes to the rabbi and asks whether it's permissible to play chess on Shabbos. Why do you think he's asking? Probably because he wants to play chess on Shabbos. That's usually the reason, right? Now imagine him doing his own independent investigation. Okay, he's competent, he knows where to look. Okay, he's doing an investigation, but is he really objective about the question? Since what's motivating him to ask it is because he wants to play, I wouldn't call that objective. He wants a certain answer. So those that forbid it, he's going to look for ways out, and look for weaknesses, and those that permit it, he's going to support. This is confirmation bias, which is also, by the way, these technical psychological terms that are thrown around are mostly false. They're mostly false. Don't trust it. I shouldn't have even said it. What was his name? When Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, won the Nobel Prize in behavioral economics. He himself committed the same mistakes he was describing. Later on, he called it the train wreck, where his own theories were based on the same mistakes that he was describing. So this stuff is dreadfully superficial. But at any rate, the person is not going to be objective, so he can't trust his own judgment. So. That means that he doesn't wear a sign. The tricky part is there's a good inclination, evil inclination. Okay, if only they wore hats, They say, "Oh, you're the good one. Good, I'll do what you say." But the bad one imitates the good one, and then it requires a lot of analysis, a lot of soul searching, and a lot of submitting to objective knowledge that other people have in order to get the right thing done. I think that people who live active lives realize this happens in medicine, and it happens in law, and it happens in interpersonal relationships, and you just have to get used to the idea that it's not easy to find the right thing to do. But looking for the worst or the best, I don't think it's a useful waste of place. I can't do it. I just can't do it. But I don't think it's what difference would it make if it's the worst challenge or the best challenge? You work on the ones that you can work on.
Another expression for you.
Yeah.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst. Does that fit into Judaism?
Well, that's hope for the best and plan for the worst. There's such a thing as that's called decision theory, and decision theory has various rules for how you should make decisions under uncertainty when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And there's a mini rule, mini max rule, a maxi max rule. Minimize the maximum possible danger, or maximize the maximum possible benefit. And these are all different rules, and they compete with one another. It's no clear when to use this rule, when to use that rule. Most popular rule is the rule of expected utility, where you say, well, let's see, the situation might be A, B, or C. If it's A and I do this, this will be the outcome. If I do B and if it's this, it's C. And then ask yourself, given the probabilities and given what your opportunities are, what can give you the best expected outcome? And then choose that, which is sometimes the right thing to do. Preparing for the worst is where there's a non-trivial probability of a disaster. Then it makes sense to invest considerably in preparing for the worst. Meaning, if you prepare sufficiently, you'll be able to avoid the disaster, because that shuts everything down. But it has to be not 0.001%. I'll give you an example. I exercise regularly. I have a trainer, and when I mentioned to him the idea of no pain, no gain, so he said, "Don't ever say that. It's not true. Pain is an indicator that something's being strained, and if you strain a muscle or tear a muscle or break a bone, you won't be able to exercise at all. So you have a choice. Shall I increase my routine? And the alternative is, if I don't increase my routine, I won't progress as fast as I could. If I do increase my routine, there's a non-trivial probability of injury. Don't increase your routine, because injury means it's over. So that's a case where you prepare for the worst. But not always is the worst so terrible. The worst could be losing $1,000 instead of losing $500. That could be the worst alternative in your array of alternatives. Then, maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't. Whenever you try something new, there's always the possibility that you'll fail and completely fail. That's the worst possible outcome, but surely you don't want to worry about that. Otherwise, you never try anything new. So I don't think it's sharp enough to be very useful. It's like a guideline, but it's not really a sharp thing.
All right, I have one more.
That Michael
I'm waiting for
Friedman you were
Shakespeare.
quoting? Is that Michael Friedman you were quoting?
You mean the economist?
Trainer.
Oh no, Michael Friedman. You know Michael Friedman? He used to be my trainer many years ago. I moved over to somebody else recently. He was wonderful. Michael Friedman is wonderful. Tremendous. Dovid Hashem. He's a tremendous talk. He's a Talmud Chacham, and he was very careful. I tell the stories. I was running 3 miles in a half hour every time I came to work out, and he said to me one day, "I think you could do 4.5 miles in 45 minutes." I said, "I'm 60 years old. You want me to go up 50% in one shot?" He said, "Yeah, I think you could do it." I did it. I was so surprised. He saw that I could do it. So why was I tired at the end of 30 minutes? Because 28 minutes, you say, 2 minutes to go. And then you get tired. But if you're 28, you say, well, I got 17 to go. Okay, so you go 17. I would never have dreamt that about myself. And he was the one who said to me, don't play the no gain, no pain, no gain. It's simply not true. Simply not true. So this is what you get when you deal with a person with experience and insight. Okay. Yeah, so I'm waiting for Shakespeare. To thine own self be true.
Well,
Then thou canst not be false to any man. Now, I worried about that because I don't think it's sensible. I really don't think it's sensible at all. And then I looked it up, and it turns out that Shakespeare put these words into one of the people in the play who isn't a hero. So chances are his point in saying that was to tell you, don't pay attention to this, guys, because this ain't it. Because let's suppose that I have failures, I have faults, and I'm trying to present myself. Well, should I consciously and by decision portray and express and act out my faults so I'll be true to who I am? Wouldn't being true to who I am be a suggestion for stasis? Don't change? Wait a minute. I want to change. And if you tell me, oh, well, but that's you who wants to change, so it's really you also, so then part of me wants to stay the same, and part of me wants to change, which part should I pay attention to? That is not good advice. I was very happy when I found out that even Shakespeare didn't think of it as good advice. Yeah, you got one more you said?
Yeah. So they say that the definition of crazy is doing something over and over expecting different results. How does this not relate to Chazarah?
Oh, first of all, they don't say it only about craziness. They say it about fanaticism. I think that's where it started, by the way. Fanatic is a person who forgets his goals and keeps doing the same thing over and over again. But the idea is stupid, and especially the application to Chazarah is stupid. First of all, if you practice reviewing what you have learned, you'll discover new things all the time. That's just a fact about this kind of learning. Maybe it's true about other kinds of learning as well, I don't know, but this kind of learning for sure. So it turns out that it isn't the same thing. Second of all, I think people's character divides on this. Let's suppose that you have a problem, any kind of problem. How to fix your carburetor, or how to fix a relationship, or how to work out a diet, whatever it is, and you try every means that you can think of to fix it, and nothing helps. You even ask other people, but you have 7 different approaches, and you try all 7, and it doesn't help. What do you do now? So I think here, the people psychologically divide. Some people say, okay, I tried all that. I'll live with the problem. I'll go do something else. And the other people say, I'm going to try all 7 again. Why would you do that? I mean, you just did all 7 and it didn't help. I'm like that. I'll go through it again and again and again. I've noticed that if you don't give up many, many times with no conscious variation, what you're doing, after 5 times or 10 times, you'll get it. I don't know why that is. I know what to think about it, though. I know what to think about it in spiritual terms. Because Baruch Hu wants you to recognize it as a gift. Because if it was really your strategy that did it, it would have worked the first time. So he said, you try it 5 times, and then 6th time I'll give it to you, and you'll realize that it was a gift. Now, the truth is that we experience ideas, the appearance of ideas in this way. And this is enshrined even in English, you know. The thought hit me. Did it really? Did you get a bruise? Are you in pain? Well, and then the light bulb goes on, right? These are expressions which indicate, I don't know where the thought is coming from. And that's right, you don't know where it's coming from. But if you try it over and over again, and I'm like this, if something's missing, I can look at it, I can look for it over and over and over again. I was standing, putting my key into the lock of my front door, maybe it was in Baltimore a million years ago, and it didn't turn. I tried pushing up and turning, down and turning, left and turning, right and turning, twisting one way, twisting another way. I stood there for 8 minutes doing it over and over again, and finally it opened. I didn't plan to do it any different way. So you could tell me there are micro differences in the way I'm doing it. You could say that. You might be right, you might be wrong. You don't know that you're right. You just think so. Anyway, I don't think there's anything wrong with repeating, even when you get not in every possible case, but the rule you stated was that you should never just repeat over and over again. That's not true. That's simply not true. And especially in reviewing your learning, and I have a suggestion, if you're going to review your learning, at least once, review the learning after 24 hours have passed from the time you learned it. Because your brain is working even when you're not thinking about it. They did an experiment. Is it true or false? Who knows? But they did an experiment. They asked people to memorize information. And half of the group was asked to memorize in the morning, repeat it in the evening. And half were asked to memorize in the evening and repeat it the following morning. And the latter group did better, even though they were unconscious for most of the time. Maybe the consciousness got in the way. I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities. But the idea that the brain is working when you're not thinking is really a genuine idea. I have had this so many times, when after 24 hours you come back, first of all, you can see the whole thing. It sort of gels in your mind. And then once you see the whole thing, you see relationships which you didn't see before. And it doesn't happen if you do it 5 minutes later. It happens if you do it 24 hours later. So if you're going to do a repeat, at least one repeat should be 24 hours later. And then a week later, a month later, a year later, the people have a whole schedule of repeating what they've learned over the years to try to keep it fresh. You know, there were 2 scholars in Europe before the Second World War, the Gottlieb and the Ohr Somayach. Now, one said about the other, they said to him, so-and-so has a tremendous memory. And the answer they got back was, no, that's not true. It's just that he's always just learned everything. he goes through it over and over again. He's going to, Rabbi Akiva is famous for writing cross-references on the daf, saying, take a look over there in a entirely different tractate and compare because there's some problem. So the picture I had for many years was he just knows everything. So anything, but then I found out that's not true. He had 2 systems of learning running simultaneously, and in one system he was in one place, and the other is in another place. So he saw the connections. But he's got a lot of pans on the fire. He's got a lot of things going. And that's how he was able to make those connections. So no, I don't think the idea of we're not so clever that the evaluation of the results of what we do is so evaluate. We can evaluate it so carefully to say it's not worth trying again. This is similar, but not exactly the same. Jonas Salk, who discovered the Salk vaccine against polio, did it by trial and error. If I remember correctly, it was something like 600 tries that failed until he found it. Now, the truth is, if you try X and you publish the fact that you tried X and it didn't work, you've added to the knowledge of the world. Don't try this one again; it doesn't work. That's not nothing. But boy, oh boy, do you have to be committed to do 600 trials until you find it, and he found it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In Birkas HaShachar, we say Elokai Neshama Shemasata Bi Tahorati. Who's talking?
Who's talking? An excellent question. Hashem, the soul that you planted within me. So who's me? This already is a terrific problem for certain views where the person is the soul. The person has a body as an associated element, like you have a car, and you ride around in the car, but when you get to the end of the journey, you park the car and go inside and leave it behind. Then who's talking? If the soul is the person, who's saying, my God, you put in me the soul? I don't know how the Rambam answers that question, to tell you the truth. Because of the Rambam, the person is the soul. In the world to come, there's no body at all. There's no comma, space, body in the world to come. And so who's talking is very difficult. The best I can do is to say this. Let's suppose we have open heart surgery. Sometimes I know my first wife had a little cancer, and I think it was a kidney, and she asked the surgeon, "How are you going to do it?" He said, "I'll tell you how. I'm going to cut a slit in your skin, but take the kidney out, hold it in my hand. I'm going to cut out the cancer, and then I'll put it back in." So she said, "Well, don't nick your finger." So there are times when you disconnect. So you say, let's imagine brain surgery like that. They disconnect it. This is sci-fi. And they work on it, they put it back in. So the next day, he says, "Gee, Doc, thanks for giving me back my brain." Now who's talking? Well, the whole person is talking, including the brain. But for a while, the person was missing a brain. Now the person has the brain back. And the brain itself can appreciate being returned to the body so as to complete the person. So it's got to be a piece of poetry like that. Otherwise, it's very difficult to... There is another thing to say, actually. There is another thing to say. In our official vocabulary, the soul has lots of parts. And the different parts function in different ways. In fact, I'll tell you something quite depressing. Ramchal, Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, said there are parts of the soul of which we are totally unconscious. And the proof of it is, the Talmud says that on Shabbos we have an extra soul. And nobody is aware of that, says Ramchal. Nobody's aware of that. So you know that's there, Chazal told us, but it's just not there in a conscious way. You don't have conscious access to that aspect of the soul. So it could be one part talking about other parts. The lower part, which has, I would say, pedestrian consciousness, is being thankful for the other parts, which doesn't have access to being returned. That's also, I guess, a possibility. But the question is a very good question, and a very good answer I don't have. Okay,